Welcome to Mystery Vault, a place where the untold lives, where truth is never simple, and every mystery hides a heartbeat. Tonight, we open the vault on one of the most chilling, unsolved enigmas in modern history. A flight that took off from Kuala Lumpur on a calm night in March 2014 and vanished without a trace. No wreckage, no bodies, no answers, only questions that echo across oceans, governments, and time itself. This is the story of Flight MH370, the mystery that still haunts the world. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Because in Mystery Vault, every click takes you deeper into the truth they don't want you to find. The final flight, March 8th, 2014. It began like any other night in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Passengers checked in, luggage rolled across polished floors, and tired travelers boarded a Boeing 777 bound for Beijing. At 12:41 a.m., Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 lifted off the runway, a journey that was supposed to last just 6 hours. But within 40 minutes, something went wrong. Inside the cockpit sat Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a respected pilot with 18,000 flight hours, and First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid on his final training flight. Nothing unusual was reported. No alarms, no distress calls, just smooth skies and calm communication. At 1:19 a.m., air traffic control received the last words ever heard from MH370. Good night, Malaysian 370. Moments later, the aircraft vanished from civilian radar. No Mayday signal. No explosion. Just silence. Over the next few minutes, air controllers struggled to understand what had happened. Was it a technical glitch? A sudden decompression? Or was something more deliberate? Military radar later revealed something strange. The plane had turned around. Not slightly off course, but a full U-turn, heading back across Malaysia. Someone, or something, had taken control. And from that moment, MH370 entered the realm of mystery. The night it disappeared, when flight MH370 disappeared from radar, no one noticed at first. Air traffic control assumed it was just a routine handover delay. At 1:21 a.m., the transponder stopped sending data, the digital heartbeat that tells the world where a plane is. Suddenly, the aircraft became invisible to civilian radar. Controllers in Kuala Lumpur tried to reach the pilots. No answer. They called neighboring airspace in Vietnam. Silence. The minutes turned into an hour. In aviation, silence is terrifying. Every second of no contact means more uncertainty. Yet, that night, no emergency alarm was raised. It would take over 4 hours before Malaysia Airlines officially declared the plane missing. 4 hours. Enough time for a Boeing 777 to fly thousands of kilometers. Meanwhile, deep within military radar stations, something strange appeared. A lone, unidentified object turning sharply across Malaysian airspace, flying west instead of north. Experts later confirmed it was MH370. But this maneuver wasn't random. It was deliberate, controlled, and precise. The transponder was off, but the plane kept flying. Whoever was in control knew exactly what they were doing. After crossing the Malaysian peninsula, the aircraft vanished from all radar screens over the Andaman Sea. No wreckage, no emergency beacon, no floating debris, just a trace on a radar tape, and then nothing. In the hours that followed, confusion spread worldwide. Families waited at Beijing airport for news that never came. Officials held press conferences with no answers. And a single question began echoing across the globe. How does a plane just disappear? The night of March 8th became one of the darkest in aviation history, a night when technology failed and the truth slipped into the clouds. The search begins. Morning broke over Southeast Asia, but flight MH370 was still missing. Families crowded the airport lounges, clutching phones, watching arrival boards that never changed. At first, officials believed the plane might have landed somewhere. But as hours passed, that hope turned into dread. By midday on March 8, 2014, rescue coordination centers were activated. Malaysia, Vietnam, Singapore, and Thailand launched aircraft and ships into the South China Sea. What began as a search for survivors quickly became a search for evidence. Helicopters hovered low over the waves. Navy vessels dragged sonar arrays across hundreds of kilometers of ocean. Nothing. The Malaysian Prime Minister appeared before cameras. "We're doing everything possible." But behind the microphones, investigators were lost. Satellite images showed white objects in the water. Each time, teams raced to the spot and found only waves. Search grids expanded, shifted, and overlapped. Every hour of uncertainty cost lives, fuel, and faith. Then came new confusion. Military radar data suggested the aircraft had turned west, not northeast. The search area, the size of a small country, was now in the wrong ocean. While ships scoured empty seas, families waited in Beijing, Kuala Lumpur, and Paris. Some still dialed their loved ones' phones and heard them ring. Newsrooms flooded with theories. Mechanical failure, terrorism, pilot error. None fit the evidence because there wasn't any. Days became weeks. Hundreds of missions. Thousands of square miles searched. Nothing. For the first time in modern aviation history, an entire Boeing 777 had simply vanished. As the sun set over the Indian Ocean, one truth became clear. Whatever happened to Flight MH370 had already rewritten the limits of what we think we know about the sky. The clues that washed ashore. After months of searching, the Indian Ocean had revealed nothing. But on July 29, 2015, 508 days after Flight MH370 disappeared, the sea finally spoke. On a quiet morning along the shores of Reunion Island, off the coast of Africa, a piece of wreckage washed ashore. A large, barnacle-covered fragment of an airplane wing, a flaperon. Experts rushed to the island. Boeing engineers confirmed the part came from a 777, and there was only one missing Boeing 777 in the world. The news hit global headlines. After more than a year of silence, a piece of MH370 had finally surfaced. But the discovery brought more questions than answers. How did this debris travel over 6,000 kilometers from the suspected crash site? What currents carried it across the ocean? And why had nothing else been found? More fragments appeared in the following months. In Mozambique, Madagascar, and Mauritius. A seat cushion, a small section of interior paneling. Yet the ocean still refused to give up the rest of the plane. Investigators claimed the flaperon's damage pattern matched a high-speed impact with water. But independent experts disagreed. They said it looked almost intact. Barnacle growth on the debris suggested it hadn't floated freely for long. Some questioned whether the fragments had been planted or drifted from somewhere else entirely. The families watched the news, torn between relief and rage. They wanted proof, not fragments, not speculation. With every new discovery, the story of Flight MH370 became stranger, deeper, and darker. Because each clue that surfaced seemed to prove one thing. That someone, somewhere, still knew more than they were saying. The pilot theory, a mind in the shadows. Every mystery has a human face. And for Flight MH370, that face was Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a man with over 18,000 hours of flight experience, known by friends as calm, professional, and deeply passionate about flying. But behind that calm exterior, investigators found fragments of a story that didn't add up. In the weeks following the disappearance, police searched Zahari's home. What they found on his personal flight simulator would shock the world. Inside the hard drive were simulated flight paths eerily similar to the one MH370 took, ending deep in the southern Indian Ocean in a region with no possible landing strips. Officials called it a coincidence. But experts wondered, was this a rehearsal? Zahari's colleagues described him as friendly but quiet. Yet some close friends mentioned he had been struggling with personal issues, isolation, family stress, and the emotional weight of a long career. Psychologists brought in by the investigation debated whether a pilot so experienced could deliberately end his own life and take 238 souls with him. But others pointed to history. Cases like Egyptair 990, Silkair 185, and Germanwings 9525, tragedies caused by pilots who snapped in silence. The evidence against Zaharie was circumstantial, but patterns began to form. The route change, the silence from the cockpit, the calm deviation that required perfect skill. If someone wanted MH370 to vanish, to avoid radar, to fly beyond all communication, only a pilot could have done it. Still, those who knew Zaharie rejected the theory completely. His family insisted he was loyal, kind, and mentally sound. His students called him a mentor, a man who loved the sky. No note was ever found. No motive was ever proven. Only the data, a flight simulator trace that ended, just like the real one, in the middle of nowhere. So, was Captain Zaharie a hero, a victim, or something much darker? Or is he being framed by an incomplete truth? As the investigation deepened, even those searching for answers began to wonder if the truth was being buried, not lost. The cover-up, secrets above the clouds. When the search for MH370 began, dozens of nations joined the effort: Malaysia, Australia, China, Vietnam, and the United States. But cooperation quickly turned into confusion. Radar data was withheld. Satellite records were delayed, and every government seemed to have its own version of events. In the first few days after the disappearance, the Malaysian military admitted something shocking. They had tracked an unidentified aircraft crossing the peninsula hours after MH370 vanished from civilian radar. If they saw it, why didn't they act? That single revelation fueled the first whispers of a cover-up. Some experts believe the Malaysian government knew more than they said, afraid of admitting a national security failure. Others point to the U.S. military base at Diego Garcia, deep in the Indian Ocean, where classified radar systems could have easily detected the plane. Yet, despite its unmatched surveillance reach, the U.S. claimed it saw nothing. Nothing at all. For conspiracy researchers, that silence was the loudest clue of all. Then came the Inmarsat satellite data, a British company providing signals that supposedly tracked the aircraft's final moments. But the full raw data was never released publicly. Only interpretations. Could the data have been manipulated? Or was it simply too sensitive to reveal? In 2018, French investigators quietly reopened their own probe, hinting that key information had been classified by the United States and the Malaysian authorities. They wanted answers that never came. Even today, families of the victims say they were kept in the dark, given half-truths and silence. If MH370 truly went down, where officials say it did, why have they never found the main wreckage? Why were key radar recordings deleted or sealed? Was this an accident hidden by incompetence? Or a secret operation gone wrong? One the world was never meant to discover. The cover-up theory divides investigators. But one thing is clear. The truth about MH370 lies somewhere between the data and the deception. Alternate theories: hijacking, cyber takeover, or something not of this world. When logic fails, imagination takes over. And for flight MH370, logic ran out a long time ago. For years, investigators followed the data. But as the evidence grew colder, the theories grew stranger, and some say, more believable. The first major alternate theory? Hijacking. Some believe MH370 was taken over, not by terrorists, but by covert agents. The idea that the plane was remotely redirected toward a secret landing site, possibly in Central Asia. Aviation experts once dismissed the idea, but documents later revealed that Boeing and Honeywell had indeed developed remote aircraft intervention systems, technology that could override a pilot's controls in an emergency. Could someone have used that system from ground? Another version suggests a cyber hijack, a digital infiltration through the plane's onboard computer systems. The 777's avionics network was advanced but interconnected, making it possible, in theory, for a skilled hacker to access critical flight functions. If true, the hijackers didn't need to be on the plane. They just needed a laptop and a reason. But there are darker theories still. Some claim MH370 was shot down accidentally or intentionally by military forces during a sensitive operation. Witnesses in the Maldives and South China Sea reported seeing a low-flying jumbo jet followed by a fireball in the sky. But these reports vanished quickly from official channels. And then, there's the theory few dare to say out loud. The extraterrestrial hypothesis. In the weeks after the disappearance, U.S. satellite monitoring stations recorded massive bursts of electromagnetic energy over the Indian Ocean, signals that coincided almost exactly with MH370's last known contact. To some, it was a coincidence. To others, proof of an encounter with something far beyond human understanding. Eyewitnesses online claim to have seen bright lights and glowing spheres moving in formation the same night. Some even say leaked infrared footage shows MH370 surrounded by orbs before vanishing midair, pixel by pixel. Is it fake? Possibly. But millions have watched it and asked the same question. If it isn't fake, then what happened to that plane? Every theory, hijack, cyber attack, or otherworldly intervention, fills in one gap and opens another. Each offers a truth, but none fit perfectly. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the disappearance of MH370 wasn't just a tragedy, but a message. A reminder of how little control we truly have over the sky, and how much can vanish without a trace. The ghosts left behind, the families who still wait. Behind every mystery, there are voices you rarely hear, the ones who never stopped waiting. For the families of Flight MH370, time has not healed. It has only deepened the silence. In Kuala Lumpur, Beijing, and Perth, families still gather each year on March 8th. They light candles, they hold hands, and they read the same names again and again. 239 names, each one a story that never found an ending. In hotel lobbies, bedrooms, and empty airports, their photos remain, smiles frozen in a moment that never returned. For many, the hardest part isn't death. It's the not knowing, because you can't bury hope. Some believe their loved ones are still alive, held somewhere in secret. Others cling to dreams of a knock on the door, a phone call, a miracle. One mother said, "I still set the table for my son every night, because if he ever walks back through that door, I want him to know I was waiting." Psychologists call it ambiguous loss, a kind of grief that never ends because it never begins, a wound that can't close because the truth never came. Governments have moved on. Search ships have been decommissioned. But for the families, MH370 is not history. It's every sleepless night, every unanswered question. They're trapped between two realities, one where their loved ones are gone, and another where they still might be out there, somewhere in the endless blue. The wreckage may rest miles below the ocean, or perhaps never existed at all. But above the surface, 239 ghosts still haunt the living, not in the sea, but in the silence. And maybe, just maybe, that silence is where the truth is hiding. The legacy of MH370, what the world still refuses to learn. It has been years since Flight MH370 disappeared, a plane that left Kuala Lumpur one quiet night and never came home. In that time, we've seen oceans searched, governments questioned, and hundreds of theories born. But in the end, one truth remains: the world still doesn't know. We live in an age of satellites, AI, and global surveillance. We could track a phone across continents. Yet somehow, a 250-ton aircraft carrying 239 people vanished without a trace. Maybe that's the greatest mystery of all. Not how MH370 disappeared, but how easily we accepted that it could. For years, the world moved on. News cycles shifted. Search budgets ended. But the questions, they never sank. What really happened that night? Was it human error, technology failure, or something far more deliberate? Was the truth hidden to protect power, or simply lost beneath miles of silence? Every theory leaves cracks. Every explanation raises new doubts. And maybe, just maybe, that's because we're not meant to find the answer. Some mysteries don't end with truth. They end with awareness. MH370 forced humanity to confront its illusion of control, to admit that even in the modern world, the sky can still swallow secrets whole. The missing flight became more than a tragedy. It became a mirror, showing us our obsession with certainty, our fear of the unknown, and our weakness for silence. And maybe the final message of MH370 isn't about technology or conspiracy, but about truth itself, because somewhere in that endless ocean lies either the wreckage of a plane or the wreckage of our understanding. The mystery isn't just what happened to Flight MH370. The real mystery is why, after all this time, we still don't want to know. The ocean keeps its secrets well, but the truth about Flight MH370 may not lie beneath the waves. It may lie within us. A reminder that even in a world connected by satellites, we can still lose more than a plane. We can lose the truth. Thank you for watching Mystery Vault. If this story made you question what you thought you knew, then our job is done. Like, share, and subscribe, and join us again next time as we unlock another secret the world tried to forget. Until then, keep your eyes open and your mind even wider.